Welcome to the Modern Man Insights channel. I bet you didn't know how different boyhood used to be compared to today. Today's 12-year-old boys are immersed in digital worlds, their greatest battles fought on screens. Their lives are safe, their challenges mostly academic or social. But for most of history, boyhood was a brief prelude to a harsh reality. In ancient times, the transition to manhood was sudden and brutal, marked by violence, hardship, and survival. At 12, boys were already being forged into warriors, stripped of innocence, and expected to protect and provide. There was no choice, only duty. Manhood meant sacrifice, discipline, and facing death for the sake of the tribe. Weakness was not tolerated. Every boy was a vital link in the chain of survival. Lessons were learned not in classrooms but on training grounds and battlefields. A boy's worth was measured by his endurance, obedience, and contribution to his people. This was the reality for boys in Sparta, medieval Europe, the Aztec Empire, and Viking lands. Their stories remind us of a world where becoming a man was the ultimate test of survival. In ancient Sparta, the transformation from boy to warrior began at 7. Boys entered the agoge, a relentless military academy, where pain, hunger, and obedience were the curriculum. They learned to steal to survive, fought to prove strength, and endured harsh discipline. By 12, a Spartan boy was a hardened survivor, molded into a soldier who valued the state above all else. Individuality was erased, unity and sacrifice were everything. The famous command, "Come back with your shield or on it," defined their ethos. At 12, he was expected to fight and kill if needed. The agoge produced legendary warriors, boys who became men through relentless hardship. For Spartans, manhood meant losing yourself to the collective and finding glory in service. In medieval Europe, noble boys began their journey at 7 as pages, learning service and humility. By 12 or 13, they became squires, personal assistants to knights, thrust into the world of war. Squires trained with real weapons, cared for armor and horses, and learned the brutal realities of combat. They accompanied knights into battle, witnessing death and chaos firsthand. Courage under fire was the true test of manhood. Only by surviving this apprenticeship in violence could a boy earn knighthood. The path was long and dangerous, forging boys into seasoned warriors. Manhood was proven by loyalty, bravery, and skill in battle. By the time he was knighted, a young man had already faced the true cost of war. In the Aztec Empire, boys were raised for war or priesthood, but most faced the warrior's path. At 13, they entered the Telpuc, training in weapons, endurance, and pain. Success meant capturing enemies for sacrifice, a public rite of passage marking manhood. Failure brought shame to the family, courage brought honor and social advancement. Boys were immersed in the realities of death and sacrifice, serving gods and empire. The first captive was a boy's entry into adulthood. Every young man was driven by duty and ambition, shaped by ritual and violence. Manhood meant embracing this brutal reality and proving worth through action. Viking boys grew up surrounded by weapons and tales of heroic warriors. By 12, they were expected to wield axes and shields, strong from hard labor and eager to prove themselves. Honor and reputation were everything. Cowardice was the worst fate. Boys joined raids, starting with support roles but ready to fight if needed. There was no set age for manhood. A boy became a man when he earned the trust of warriors. The transition was raw and organic, forged in the crucible of survival and battle. Manhood was earned through courage, endurance, and action. In the Viking world, only deeds defined a man. Today, the idea of forcing boys into violence is unthinkable. But the stories of ancient times, of warriors, trials, and sacrifice, still echo in our collective memory.